73 years to the day of the Doolittle Raiders mission in Tokyo, the two remaining living members handing over their award for future generations to enjoy. Christian Hauser was at the special ceremony at the Air Force Museum and has more on their amazing legacy. Thanks, Christian. Two Kentucky men under arrest tonight accused of fatally shooting an Ohio native near the University of Kentucky campus. Justin Smith, pictured here, and Efren Diaz are now facing multiple charges. They're accused of gunning down 23-year-old Jonathan Kruger while trying to rob him. His high school coach in Perrysburg near Toledo reacting to the news today.
John.
Police are investigating if more people were involved in the shooting. The suspects are due in court later this week. The latest information now on a Columbus man facing terrorism charges.
His intent for the United States was to kill Americans.
Abdirahman Sheikh Mohammed pleading not guilty to accusations he trained with terrorists in Syria and was given orders to come back and kill Americans. The Somali-born man's brother died in Syria while fighting for ISIS. A federal informant says Mohammed was happy about his brother's death and said he would be the next to die for the cause. Mohammed is due back in court later this month. Also in Columbus, a couple is facing human trafficking charges after police say they tried to lure women online. Police say 32-year-old Thomas Williamson and 29-year-old Michelle Feldman created a false identity online, and they began romantic relationships with 3 women to lure them into servitude or slavery, and then sexually assaulted them. Prosecutors say it was done to satisfy the couple's sexual, financial, and emotional needs, and it took place from April 2013 until March. Both are charged with trafficking, extortion, sexual battery, and other charges. A hearing is set for Monday. Caught on camera, a new Richmond, Ohio officer attacked by a murder suspect. Officer Jesse Kidder's body camera was rolling when the homicide suspect he was following gets out of the car and charges. Now, Kidder had been warned the man was armed and may try to commit suicide by cop. Instead of using his gun, though, Kidder opened up a dialogue with the man. A few seconds later, backup arrives and the man surrenders. The chief praising Kidder tonight.
For him to make
Officer Kidder says one of his relatives gave him the body camera to use after what happened in Ferguson. Now the chief says he's hoping to find funding to get them for the rest of his officers. Also caught on camera, a litter of puppies strapped to the roof of a minivan in Akron. Police received dozens of 911 calls and eventually got the driver to pull over. He says he was on his way to his wife's family some 300 miles away. The family claims they didn't know it was wrong, and since they surrendered the animals, they won't be charged. Police educated the family on the proper way to transport animals and drove the dogs to a nearby animal shelter. The puppies appeared shaken, but otherwise okay. And back here at home, police are searching for a missing Harrison Township man. Officials say 58-year-old James Elliott walked away from Riverside Health Care Center yesterday. He was wearing a Cincinnati Bengals hat, coat, and blue jeans. Authorities say Elliott has a history of mental illness and left the center without medication. If you see this man, call 911. An accident victim takes the law into his own hands. Here's the scene of the crash on Troy at McCready this afternoon. The driver of the Range Rover says he was going down Troy when the driver of the van came speeding down the street and rear-ended him. He and his passenger jumped into action.
And they take him to the jail.
The 2 men in the Range Rover say they hurt their backs but wasn't going to the hospital. Proms tomorrow for many students in the Miami Valley, and AAA says, as a reminder for those who want to party hardy, if you're going to the prom, AAA says recognize the risk factors, and they say you need to remind those in your car not to create distractions. If you're the one driving, be defensive when driving and look out for impaired drivers.
People in the car, so.
And absolutely no drinking and driving. Not only is it illegal, but it can have deadly consequences. Well, it really is a small world after all. An Ohio woman finally finds her biological mother, and the irony, the 2 women have worked together for the same company for the past few years. Reporter Greta Mitterader shares their amazing story. Folks around Dayton got to enjoy World Record Store Day. Omega Music had specials on records and live bands playing. The store opened early this morning and music lovers were lined up hours before. The love of music bringing people from all walks of life together.
for once a year.
Omega Music will keep the celebration going tomorrow starting at noon. An Oklahoma family saying goodbye after a man is gunned down by a sheriff's deputy.
You know what they did was wrong, but they wouldn't be trying to hide everything.
The admission the sheriff just made about the deputy involves qualifications. Next. Plus,
I mean, that was really my first time ever.
Coming up, see what the inside of a flight simulator looks like and how these students are benefiting from the training. Coming up. Friends and family gathering to say goodbye to Eric Harris, who was shot and killed by a Tulsa Reserve deputy. Deputies were trying to arrest Harris when Reserve Deputy Robert Bates grabbed his gun instead of his taser and shot Harris. Bates says it was an accident. Now his training is under intense scrutiny, with the sheriff admitting that some gun certification records are missing. Harris's son says he wants the sheriff's office held accountable for his father's death.
We'll get justice for him.
Meanwhile, Robert Bates has been charged with manslaughter. In your Vote 2016 coverage tonight, GOP presidential hopefuls are in New Hampshire getting out their messages. Speaker after speaker made their case in front of hundreds of Republican activists. Senator Rand Paul led the notables at the First in the Nation summit there. Now, he criticized both Republicans and Democrats, and he pulled no punches when discussing Democratic rival Hillary Clinton.
I'm starting to worry.
Former Governor Mike Huckabee told the crowd the Republican Party needs to start acting like the grand old party. Senator Ted Cruz criticized the Obama administration's proposed nuclear deal with Iran. And back here at home, students from around the world cleared for takeoff today. They're putting their aircraft design skills to the test in a flight simulation lab at the University of Dayton. It's all a part of the 5th annual IT Flies USA competition. Now, the students' designs were tested on the only Merlin flight simulator in the U.S. by experimental test pilots.
So when they come,
the simulator was installed in 2010. UD students have previously won the competition. And it was a beautiful day for Habitat for Humanity volunteers who were making a difference. The UD chapter of Habitat helped with the Posey Power Sale. The Neighbors Garden Club puts it on each year. It's the second mulch sale of the year, and the money the students earn from working goes to the Dayton chapter of Habitat. The nonprofit helps people get on the right path toward buying a home. All families who participate also put in sweat equity working on their own and others' homes. Now, fundraisers like this are extremely important, helping crews buy tools that they need.
The entire year.
UD's Habitat for Humanity has been helping with this sale for 28 years. Well, as Mike said, a beautiful day outside and thrill seekers taking advantage at Kings Island. The park opened today for its 44th season. The park is debuting 2 new rides in Planet Snoopy's Kid area, and they are Woodstock gliders and Snoopy's Space Buggies. Now, plus there's a ton of upgrades on International Street near the Eiffel Tower. The additions come a year after the park debuted its record-breaking Banshee roller coaster. There were more than 2 million rides its first year. And a record-breaking crowd filled the shoe for Ohio State's spring game. Coming up next, the play that created a war of words after the game. Plus, the Reds lost more than just another game to the Cardinals. Eric Elkin has the details next.
Since there are almost 100,000 of them in attendance, pretty crazy.
Yeah, I know it's baseball season, but I'm ready for some football.
You know, it's never not football season. It's become just a year-round thing.
Especially here in Ohio.
Oh, no doubt.
I'm ready for Ohio State.
We've got the North-South game next week at the high school level, the All-Star game next weekend, so the football continues.
There you go. That's good. All right, well, a couple of birds escaped a fiery death on another note here.
Smart bird.
And what they did that ensured their survival and how they're recovering tonight. That's next. It's an unusual case of mistaken identity. Firefighters responding to a house fire in Boise, Idaho, think they hear people screaming inside. Now, crews were actually hearing these guys, parrots. Emergency crews say the birds had been trained to issue a warning. They were screaming for help, leading firefighters to believe there were people trapped inside the home.
There was actually nobody besides the birds in the house.
The birds were rescued quickly and given oxygen. They're expected to be okay. The cause still unknown tonight. So I have one day off, and it's tomorrow, and you're telling me it's going to rain, right?
Yes, tomorrow we are going to see rain for a good portion of the day, and we all are going into the month.
Just look at it this way. You can get all your housework done, your chores inside.
That's right.
Not going to happen. I'm ready for some 80-degree temperatures, though. All right, that's our news for tonight. We thank you so much for joining us here Have a good night.